The Cowboy defense has been very effective. Certainly, Micah Parsons is the guy who makes that go. But they've also got a very talented corner in Trevon Diggs. And you and I have talked on the show before about what Trevon Diggs is. And a good Wednesday morning, Birds fan, an undefeated Wednesday, because that's what your Philadelphia Eagles are, even though our attentions are a little split these days in Philadelphia with the Phillies doing what they're doing on the baseball side. Dallas week does grab every Eagles fan's attention, and we're here to talk about it for the next 2 hours. Your Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald, here to hang with you. Are you ready for a walkthrough Wednesday, Johnny Mac? Is it going to be a walkthrough Wednesday?
It is. That was kind of a late change. So, the Eagles had put a regular Wednesday on the schedule and all of a sudden shifted gears yesterday afternoon. We'll talk to Nick Sirianni this afternoon before practice, after the walkthrough. And see why he shifted gears. My guess is because the offensive line is banged up and Micah Parsons is there. That would be my best guess. And they want to get everybody as healthy as possible to deal with Micah Parsons and I still got to look at some Cowboys games and some Cowboys tape, but I assume it's a lot like last year and they're going to move him around to what the best scenario is to rush. So that could be inside, outside, either side. And if he's not the best player in football, he's catching up to Aaron Donald. He's you could argue he's been the most dominant defensive player in football. So he's tough to deal with, and he's even tougher to deal with if you're using backup offensive linemen. And as good as Jack Driscoll has been, I said it yesterday on the show, I want Jordan Mailata out there this week if at all humanly possible.
Right. And I give Driscoll a lot of credit for both games that he's turned in since filling in for Mailata, but Mailata's Mailata. It's the reason why the Eagles gave him the huge contract that they did. He had been phenomenal. And you want to have all your best players available. If that extra day of non-practice is the difference, the Eagles are doing the right thing. We don't know that. They don't know that. Nobody really knows that. We'll have to wait till Sunday night to find out. But I thought you made a good point there, and I think you got to give the opposition a little credit this week. I know that's not what most Eagle fans, I shouldn't say all, most
they don't
Eagle
want to hear
fans,
that.
They don't want to hear anything that's positive about the Dallas Cowboys, but reality is reality. The fact that they use Micah Parsons the way that they do, and I think Dan Quinn is one of the best defensive coordinators in the National Football League. Head coach, I'm not so sure, but I know he's a great defensive coordinator, and he's doing it again this year with them. You have to have other talented players to be able to do that. It really is a plus. If you can just plug and play a guy all along the defensive line, bring him from the left, bring him from the right, bring him from the middle. It makes it so much more difficult for a team to prepare for him and stop him. But when you're doing that, you're displacing a whole bunch of other guys, because there are some players in the National Football League that just know their position. They know how to play their position. We give Jack Driscoll a lot of credit this week because he's going from left to right, and he's going from inside to outside. There are a whole bunch of guys, Andre Dillard, who can't do that, who can't just, plug them into another spot. No, they're just not capable of doing that. Well, when you use Micah Parsons the way the Cowboys use him, you're displacing a whole bunch of other players that are asked to do different things, have different responsibilities. And to the Cowboys' credit, for the first 5 games of the year, there has not been a fall off. No matter where they put Micah Parsons along their defensive front, the other guys have filled the void and done what they've had to do.
Yeah, and that's always been a big thing with cornerbacks. I talked about that with Slay for a long time because, people are like, just have Slay travel with so-and-so years past. And what you just said is correct. You're displacing everybody else. And a lot of times, the Eagles have good corners now, so it's not as big of a deal. But in years prior, and when he was in Detroit, some guys can't just move, they can't move. So you can't move Slay as much as maybe you would like to. And yeah, the Cowboys have, they have DeMarcus Lawrence, who's comfortable moving to the other side if he has to be. They have Dante Fowler. They have Dorrance Armstrong. So, and then I think a lot of these guys, they realize, Micah Parsons is going to make it easier for us. So they've embraced it as well, and that's part of it. But you're right. I think a lot of fans don't realize that. It's easy to say it, but
Right.
it's not as easy to do it. And the Cowboys. And you mentioned Dan Quinn's one of the best defensive coordinators in this league. I joked about how Shane Steichen's, got the rocket on his what when it comes to potential head coaching jobs. And I got the email when Matt Rule got fired and everybody speculating in all the betting markets. And it was Sean Payton, obviously, number one. Number three was Shane Steichen. Number two was Dan Quinn, right in between. I mean, he's a really, really highly regarded defensive coordinator. As you mentioned, had one opportunity to be a head coach. It wasn't terrible. So he'll probably get a second opportunity. But he's a really, really good coordinator and in the conversation for being the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. And yeah, Eagles fans probably don't want to hear that.
Now, does he play a spinoff of the Vic Fangio defense? Is he one of the disciples, or does he
No,
actually?
he's a cover three guy. He's a Seattle guy. So a little bit of a different tint, and here's the problem. And I've talked about this. What it was really Tony Dungy, cover two, um, became in vogue. Everybody started using it, and then there's a tipping point where it becomes, you know, oversaturation. People get too used to it. People understand it. Not everybody has the same level of talent. Same thing happened with the Legion of Boom and Cover Three in Seattle. Everybody's copying Seattle. Now everybody's copying Big Fangio and this multiple front and quarters coverage. There's going to be a tipping point. Um, the good news for the Eagles is they have a lot of talent. So they're probably going to be at the back end of that tipping point, but there is going to be a tipping point.
Meaning that there'll be another new defense that everyone will follow.
Well, it'll
sometime in the
become
future.
too easy to deal with, and yeah, people will shift to another sort of framework. And the good coordinators are always the ones reinventing themselves and adding things and doing different things. Dan Quinn, as an example, is not just what he once was as a Seattle cover three guy. He does a lot of different things, and he shifts things up a little bit. But most people in this league, and that's why they call it a copycat league, they follow what works, right? They say, "Oh, that works. Let's do that." And it's that's my issue with so many teams using the same scheme. Um, I'm not a big fan of follow the leader. I'd rather be the leader. But if you have a lot of talent and the Eagles have a lot of talent, you're just going to out talent people no matter what you run.
Right. My hope would be specifically for the Eagles that they tailor their defense to fit the talent they have rather than try and pick a defense and put a square peg in a round hole. I think Harry Roseman has done a good job, second year working with Nick Sirianni and understanding exactly what he wants out of his defense. I think the Eagles acquired some players this year that give them a better chance. I'm okay with the Vic Fangio defense as long as you've got the players to play it, even if the rest of the league knows that you're playing it and they're getting ready for it all together too often during the year. If you got the talent, that you should still be able to be an effective defense. The Cowboy defense has been very effective. Certainly Micah Parsons is the guy who makes that go, but they've also got a very talented corner in Trevon Diggs. And you and I have talked on the show before about what Trevon Diggs is. He's a big play guy. He takes chances. He's fast enough to get in, jump routes, make big interceptions, and turn games around on a dime. But he also, in taking those chances, can be beat. that he gives up big plays, that guys can get behind him. If you're Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni at all on the offensive side, you going at him? You trying to avoid him? Do you treat him like one of the 11 guys on the opposite side of the ball on Sunday? How do you think they are tailoring or tweaking their game plan, knowing Trevon Diggs is what he is?
That's been part of the fun of the Eagles, and that's what I like about the coaching staff. Like a lot of teams say, it's about the opposition on a certain week, but the Eagles prove it. I mean, they play completely different from week to week. And last week, you saw. Look, I'll be honest, they drove
Bubble
me crazy.
screens.
They drove me crazy with that nonsense. But Arizona blitzed a lot, and that was their answer to the blitz. The early scripted stuff worked really well with Dallas Goedert. But that was their answer for the blitz, and very few teams blitz more than Arizona. In other weeks, you look at, speaking of the Big Fangio scheme, you look at Minnesota, which is way behind the Eagles on the spectrum of using it. And you saw some of that soft coverage, and the Eagles were able to take advantage of it. Take advantage of those soft spots down the field. I think they're going to take some shots down the field. I hope they're going to take some shots down the field, maybe double move. They have the receivers to do it. Jalen Hurts has proven that he's a very good deep ball thrower when they allow him to do it. And I shouldn't even say that, because I think a lot of the bubble screens was also Jalen Hurts making that decision in the moment.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's going to be in the game plan to try and take advantage of the aggressiveness of Trevon Diggs. Not a lot, but a few times. And when you have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, you can win a battle or two, even against a really good player. But you got to be careful. And one of the best things, maybe the best thing about Jalen Hurts this year, of all the flowers you want to throw at Jalen Hurts, I think the biggest bouquet should be, guy takes care of the football. He takes care of the football. And I don't want to hear about it, an interception here and there, bad throw. Everybody has interceptions except Aaron Rodgers, but everybody has interceptions. I mean, the guy takes care of the football, and I didn't see that coming. I got to be honest with you.
You're right. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw picks. He just gets balls batted down in the red zone when he needs a touchdown to be able to get a game.
Well, you don't like Aaron Rodgers. You're like the only one in the history of the NFL that doesn't like Aaron Rodgers.
John, I'm on record as saying.
Well, by the way, not personally. A lot of people don't like him personally.
Right.
I'm talking about.
And
football.
if he thinks mushrooms are going to change the world, more power to him. But no, I just I'm on record as saying he's got the best skill set of any quarterback I've ever seen play, and that includes that Brady guy. Rodgers got a better skill set to play quarterback in the National Football League. But the ring is the thing, and he has come up short in the playoffs. And I just to put that out there every once in a while to balance the overabundance of the praise for
AJ
Aaron
Brown,
Rodgers.
the latest. I told you that story. That was amazing. By the way.
No, what story is that?
But really, interceptions though I was talking about, so I had to look it up. So here's the last. I can't even go back. Since 2011. 6 in 502 attempts, 8 in 552, which is terrible. 5 in 340. That's completions. 5 in 520, 8 in 572, 7 in 610, 6 in 238. Got injured that year. 2 in 597. 2 interceptions in 597 attempts. That was 2018. 4 in 569. 5 and 526, 4 and 531. Unbelievable when it comes to, and it's easier. The modern NFL helps, but those numbers are still ridiculous. But Jalen Hurts, he takes care of the football. He really takes it. And then every once in a while, you had the bad throw that should have been intercepted by Jalen Thompson. Took a chance at the goal line that was it was also Jalen Thompson with the Quez Watkins throw. And everybody goes nuts. I'm like, overall, again, context. The guy takes care of the football.
He has this year. He didn't last year. You just ran down
this year.
The Rodgers unbelievable track record, decades worth of not giving up the football, not throwing picks. Jalen threw more than his fair share.
No, yeah.
So far this year in 5 games, he's done a nice job of taking care of the football. I think the overall is Jalen going to be Rodgers like?
No, I don't even expect. I mean, I can't expect that, but contextually, for most NFL quarterbacks, he's doing a tremendous job of taking care of the football.
Well, let's see what he does this week, because he's playing the best defense he's played this year, the most opportunistic defense, and I think it's my guy Kemsky who sold me on this during the offseason. There has to be a drop-off in the plus-minus for the Cowboys. It was so big last year, they can't possibly sustain that. Well, guess what? They're number 2 in the NFL again. Now, number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles at +9. They've got the best turnover ratio in the NFL. Tied for second again is the Dallas Cowboys. They're +5 and have 7 interceptions already this year. So it'll be a nice litmus test for Jalen doing a great job protecting the ball for the Eagles Hurts this season. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We got 2 good guests coming your way today. Usual spot for our buddy Mike Gill from down the shore, 97.3 ESPN, the Sports Bash. He's going to join us in less than 5 minutes. And Gary Myers, a guy we've had on the show with us before, a longtime NFL writer, NFL author, Hall of Fame selector, great football guy. Thought it'd be a good week to get him on because, believe it or not, Gary started his career down in Dallas writing for the morning news covering the Cowboys. Now, that was 30 years ago, but that goes back. Jerry was the owner of the team when Gary moved his tack from Dallas up to New York and became more of a national guy and working on some very good NFL shows, television shows as well. Gary's going to hop aboard. I thought Dallas week would be a good week to get Gary up. So Mr. Myers will join us in about an hour from now. But coming up next, Mike Gill of 97.3, the Sports Bash down the shore, is going to jump in with Mac and Mac here on Birds 365.